Thank you for listening to the DLC Drop Podcast. This podcast is part of the Esports Future Podcast
All right, welcome
Network
to another episode of the DLC Drop Podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome
Make sure
Mr.
you subscribe on your favorite podcast channel and leave us a
Jamie
review.
has had quite a career in the esports and gaming space from Rockstar Games, currently head of esports EVP at the Engine Shop, working with a ton of brands, someone with ridiculous experience and pretty fun personality. So I'm excited to talk to you, Jamie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, John. It's good to be on your podcast. Thank you. And I wasn't sure if I was going to ever get the invite.
I had to work my way up to you, my man. You know, I had to make sure I established that credibility, just like brands have to do in the esports space, I guess.
You've always been credible. I remember the day we met.
Yeah, let's tell that story. What's your version? I'll tell my version after you.
So my version was, I was like an overexcited teenager at the first Overwatch homestand in Dallas.
Yes.
And I'd seen like a social post you guys did, right? And you were there activating.
Yeah.
And we had the Bud Night and I found you. I seeked you out. And I was like, we got to do something whilst we're here.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So to give background for the audience, I was working at GameStop at the time as head of partnerships, and the Dallas Fuel were putting on the very first homestand event, which ended up influencing how Overwatch League would do homestands from that point on because it was so successful.
It was epic. That was a good event. Yeah.
So our activation for GameStop, we had this step and repeat with GameStop logos, and we did this social campaign. Social and then activation on site where we had people come, and if they took a picture in the GameStop booth, they hashtag OWL Ultimate Fan. I think they tagged GameStop and the Dallas Fuel. They'd be entered into a contest to win a Corsair headset, who was a sponsor of the Fuel, and also a behind the scenes tour with Hastro, the founder, CEO of Team Envy. And so I was trying to think before this event, you probably don't even know this piece, Jamie. Before the event, I was like, how are we going to get people to want to take pictures in our booth? So I was looking at the layout with Shea Butler, the partnership guy at Team Envy, and I saw there was a cosplay booth.
That's right.
Yeah. So shout out Frostbite Cosplay. They're here in Dallas. And so I was like, I want to be next to the cosplay booth because I know people are going to want to take pictures there. And what happened, which I could not have planned better, there was a dude in this huge Reinhardt costume, and I have a great picture I got with the guy too that I love sharing all the time. But I was like, hey man, would you mind taking a picture in the GameStop booth so we can post it on social? So he did. The moment he did, a line formed, and everybody just thought that the Frostbite people were in the GameStop booth. And it was so successful, they just stayed there. And then the next morning, they just went straight to the GameStop booth. They didn't even do their own booth. And
pioneer, it's all you need, right? First move, and then everyone wants a piece.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. So with your side of it, Jamie, you had the Bud Night, and we're like, dude, we got to do a picture of the Bud Night fighting Reinhardt in the GameStop booth.
Yes. Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Did we pull that off? Did we get a mock fight with those two in the end?
We did. So GameStop did an Instagram post of a poll with who would win, the Bud Night or Reinhardt. And I can't remember, but it sounds familiar that Bud Light was like, wait, those are not within our brand guidelines or something. But we're like, no, it's sick. You got to do it anyway.
Yeah, we like to make up sometimes the guidelines.
It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission a lot of times with these activations. You just got to go with it, right?
Well, yeah, and I think, look, and that's, part of the activation, right, and putting on a good activation is actually really thinking through how your activation connects with all the other partners that are there, right, and the wider footprint, and how do you really socialize whilst you're there with all the fans, right, and really make it a fun experience for them. And I think, we were thrilled to have Bud Light at an Overwatch event, to be at an Overwatch event. One of the reasons why we part of our recommendations to Anheuser-Busch to be there and to be part of Overwatch was seeing the sort of early fan base go out and buy jerseys to represent the city teams,
right?
And a number of women, and then parents with their kids and teenagers and grown-ups. And for me, I was like, yeah, like I really brought into the whole franchise league, home stands. And of course, look, I'm, one of the people in esports who really wants esports to be a thing. I'm not saying it's not, right? But we're still like, this scrappy compared to like traditional sports, right? In the grand scheme of media and entertainment. So, for me, it was a really important sign that, this is going to work. And obviously COVID came along as kind of put a little challenge there. But that Dallas homestand was special for sure. And like the rivalries with Houston Outlaws, packed. And we had the suite, and we just let so many people in. Yeah, just dishing out the beers, and the Bud Night was great, right? And he became a cosplay character in his own right at that event.
Exactly. Yeah, that was such a special event. It was kind of funny because I had done deals with both the Houston Outlaws and Team Envy and the Dallas Fuel. So, it was cool. It was the Fuel's home event, but I go over to the Outlaws suite and I'm like, hey guys, you good? Cool. But the last match, it culminated with the Outlaws versus the Fuel. And it was so impactful because, man, I feel like that audience was like 50-50 with Houston and Dallas.
Like it was at that matchup. By then it was.
Yeah, it was incredible. And they actually went into overtime, and I was in the suite of the Dallas Fuel next to Hastro, Jeff Moore, and their investor, Ken Hirsch, together with them when they won in overtime. It was
gentlemen right there.
It's the right room to be in. They say if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. I was definitely in the right room.
Yeah, I like Jeff. I like all of them. I've only met Ken briefly, right? But Jeff immediately connected with him because I was just all over them, right? I just pop up in their suite. Like, hello, I'm Jamie. And then we made that canvas, right? We had everyone that was at the homestand sign the canvas.
That's right.
And we handed it to Mark on stage, right?
Yeah, that's incredible. And Jeff, he's a good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast as well. And what I love about I think Team Envy is one of the most well-run organizations. And I think part of it is you have Hastro has the experience as a pro gamer and has come up and helped grow this industry. But you have folks like Jeff, who, the guy was at the Dallas Stars for 18 years. He was the SVP of sales and marketing. He ran the F1 track in Austin. He's done consulting for HKS before he came and was president and CEO of Team Envy. And they just have such a strong support structure of both, hey, we understand traditional sports and business, but also we respect and understand the gaps and the complementary needs for the esports understanding and experience. And now they're becoming just an entertainment company in addition to the competition. I love seeing what they're doing here in Dallas.
It's very interesting because a lot of what you said is actually sort of touching on a lot of beats that are going on in the esports industry right now. Look, Jeff, you're going to work at F1 and travel the world at a time when it was the shit, right? And you're in the pits and it's all glamour and pot and champagne and billionaires and quite the lifestyle. Yeah, he's like a heavy hitter, and I don't know if you've ever spoken to him about archaeology, right? And Machu Picchu and Göbekli Tepe and Jerusalem and ancient monuments. Like fascinating.
Yeah, and
Mark, Mark, so chill and full of love, right, and positive energy. Like he's a beautiful human being, right, and the way he treats everyone around him. You're right. I love Team Envy, and I've got a special place in my heart for them, and I like it as a brand. I like their success. I love that they won Call of Duty League, and I feel like when you touch on entertainment, you look at all the top esports teams, right, and where the revenue's coming from,
right,
and it's not just coming from esports, right, and especially also because of COVID, so much of it now is about content, right, and
absolutely
that broader term of entertainment, and I feel like with Team Envy, I think we're going to see a lot from them, right?
Yeah.
Andrew, who's over there on content, he's like an OG, right? He was like, an Optic founder, like at the heart of things.
OG.
Very smart, quiet, right? And and there's new people there, and I'm hoping to see a lot. And I love they got the Botes sisters, right? Chess.
Oh, it's genius.
Because chess is all of a sudden is like the OG esports, right?
Yeah.
And brilliant. And they've got a Bullet Invitational tomorrow.
Is that right?
Where I don't know if you've seen that, like a game lasts a minute or like 2 minutes. It's insane.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I haven't heard about that before.
They're live streaming it tomorrow. And
genius.
I love them. I love their look. And I think I just love that thinking, right? Where like we're really broadening what it means to be an esports org, what it means to be a content creator around video games and esports, right?
Yeah.
And all the sort of entertainment permutations that we're all discovering and originating, coming up with as we go.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too because, obviously Envy is one of these OG teams that have been around forever. But I had on the podcast a couple months ago, Marco Maru, who's the COO of XSET. And they have a very different approach than traditional esports. They have like 7 or 9 different teams, but they're all entertainment focused. A lot of their ownership are musical artists and celebrities. And we were discussing that like a lot of their power comes from being a new org and seeing how traditional teams have not been able to monetize just purely the competition part. So they come in and they say, we're fully competition. We have 9 different teams, but we're all about this entertainment lifestyle. And I think it's benefited them to come in late, but Envy has been in forever, but they have adapted with the times quite well. It's interesting to see.
Well, no, they've never lost their roots, should we say, right? They have a very clean brand.
Right.
There's no stigma, there's no dirt, there's no hoopla really. And they win, right?
Yes.
And I think they've just been quite quiet and methodical. But we have seen the explosion of FaZe, right? The explosion of 100 Thieves. We've seen dramatic rise in competition at the tournament level.
Yes.
We've seen VCs come in and jack up prices, right? We've seen massive we've seen wage inflation on salaries.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, like you've got a lot of overheads and team ops, right? It's like it's a constant time and attention and energy and resources. And then, prize pools are like varies.
Sure.
And it isn't enough. And then, I'm a non-endemic, right? Yeah, okay. So I was at Rockstar, I made video games. When we think about esports, I'm a non-endemic, right? I wasn't there in a ballroom on a LAN, bringing my computer,
right.
I wasn't a pro player, wasn't a team owner. And so I'm like a non-endemic trying to earn a living.
Sure.
In esports and justify it, right?
Right.
And then I'm actually certainly at Engine Shot, half of what we do is work with sports properties.
Yeah.
And their esports.
Yeah.
But then the other half is non-endemics. Bud Light being one of them, Mercedes-Benz, right? Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And very much at the sharp end of trying to get the sponsorship deals.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about your background too. And I want to talk about a lot of these brands that you have successfully introduced in the esports space. One thing I wanted to touch on really quick, one more point on Envy in the discussion I had with Jeff Moore, which is mind-blowing. He was explaining the challenges that teams have. And boy, do teams have it rough right now. I mean, it is just so difficult. And he said, this is what we have to do, John. We have to identify where in the growth phase are we compared to like traditional sports. So if you compare Envy to the Dallas Cowboys, are we the equivalent to the 1964 Cowboys as far as the opportunities and the league formation or everything? Or are we more 72 Cowboys, et cetera? He said, then we have to look at where we think we should be and want to be in 20 years. We need to take the strategic steps at the right time to get there because just time itself won't get you there. And then we have to do it without running out of money first. I was like, oh my, bro, the stress. I got stressed hearing him say that.
Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing, right? Is that we are in its infancy. I'm amazing that he gave it as as late as 64, because in a way I feel like it's like 1910 and we've got no helmets, right? Or
Right.
And I think, but look, and that's where there's a tremendous amount of value in the learnings that we can take from traditional sports leagues and how they built themselves out. Because if we sort of stop and sort of think about esports and where we're at now, you've got video game publishers who are normally very good at making games, and that's about it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Suddenly now having to be league operators,
Right.
running a sports league, right, globally.
Right.
Or you've got a third party that's having to deal with the publisher and those rights and then build a sports league. And I think, and esports has been so international in its audience and its viewership, which is brilliant, but a nightmare for a national brand.
Right.
Right. I know, which is where like the sponsorship deal rub has been, or one of the challenges, right? There's only so many Gillettes.
Exactly.
Right. And Coca-Colas, right? And then I think, and I can imagine you've got 18-year-olds and you've got a team of Korean kids, right, in the US, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got, Eastern Europeans, Brazilians, right?
Yeah.
And they're teenagers, and they're now performing at the highest level on a stage, knowing that there's, in the good old days and the days we'll get back to, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people live.
Yes.
And press and interviews and step and repeats backstage, and then knowing there could be 100 million people online watching.
It's insane.
And that's an insane amount of pressure. And I think we're at such the early stages of injuries, mental health, right?
Yeah.
And you think about Dallas Cowboys and the sophistication of their recovery room, like their athlete recovery room.
Absolutely.
So I'm like messing around with this thing called NuCalm.
Okay.
And this biosignal processing disc, right, that gets the GABA flowing in my brain and helps my cells recover. Or then their Ignite product, which gets my brain to a different frequency and gets me ready to perform, right?
Yeah.
And I just when I'm using it, I'm like, every esport team should use this.
Yeah.
And then you think about like, I think it was like a year ago, 2 years ago, go to like Immortals, right? And go see their facility, right?
Yeah.
And it was just starting to onboard like the doctor, right? And the kind of sort of the mental wellness. But like you think about, everyone says they're not athletes, right? The shoulder injuries, the elbows, the wrists, the fingers, the hand. It's a legit thing. And therefore working out, and actually I feel like there's elements from traditional sports in preparation and team and bonding and wellness and health that we've like barely begun. And then that in turn actually opens up opportunities for non-endemics like the healthcare industry and the wellness industry from a sponsorship perspective.
Absolutely. In fact, I think Complexity Gaming is best set up for that. And they're, coincidentally owned by Jerry Jones.
Right.
I had the opportunity when I was at GameStop to facilitate the naming rights deal for their headquarters, the GameStop Performance Center.
With them.
Yeah. So I've been able to see it close up, and Jason Lake and his team, they really focus on player health, player performance is their whole thing. And I just had somebody on the podcast, a recording session right before this one, actually, just an hour ago, a woman who's a CEO at a company called Helium. And what Helium does is they're a software, but they work with hardware VR, and they help you visualize your stress through your brainwaves. So they measure your brainwaves with a wearable, and then with VR, you visualize that with animals and colors. So then you can control it and calm yourself down, improve your sleep, lower your stress. It's insane. And we were talking about how before a match, you could put this on and you could prepare and you can get ready to perform at the highest level. But also after, you can calm yourself down.
You can recover.
Dethrottle, recover. Yeah.
That's why I use the NuCalm, right? They developed it for vets with PTSD and cancer patients. And it used to be a $5,000 medical device. And now it's a little disc I put here.
Interesting.
And I can do it for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. Depends. Do I need to recover? Do I need rescue?
Yeah.
And it flushes my system of anxiety and stress. So I'm still challenged by how do I keep my job, or
Sure.
how do I get that job, whatever, how do I land that pitch?
Yeah.
But it's not crippling me and it's not holding me back, right? And I'm able, anyway, so yeah, so look, I think, they are all entertainment companies in a way now.
Yes, and I always say, man, esports is entertainment. You made a good point about the injuries and that it can be physical, but I'm like, man, that's why I don't like the term esports. I prefer competitive gaming because it initially starts a debate of whether it's a sport or not. And my answer to that is it doesn't matter because that's purely based on your personal definition of sport. What it is, it's entertainment. It is engaging more youth than anything else across the globe. It's impactful. It's important to young people. And that's all you have to know to believe that this is the future and that you need to get involved.
Yeah. I mean, look, when you talk about the youth and being involved, and then you think about gaming.
Yeah.
And gaming culture, right? Because now these esports organizations that are about content and entertainment, well, to your point, we're not just talking about competitive gaming.
Right.
We are now talking about the massive culture of gaming, right? And one's love affair relationship with gaming. And we're now all parents, right? We're like the first generation.
Yes.
And our kids are on Minecraft and Roblox, right? And Rocket League and, Clapwell, and we're playing with them. So it's like we haven't let go of our passion.
Exactly.
So it is the pop culture, right? It's like the dominant. There was skateboarding, then there was hip hop, and now there's or rap, right?
Right.
Now there's video games.
And now it's video games. Yeah. And I want to get into that with your background. I tell every brand, hey, esports is easily sponsorable, right? You've got these sponsorable assets, teams, leagues, jerseys, etc. But esports is a microcosm of the much broader gaming ecosystem, and some brands have an opportunity in broader gaming outside of just esports. And you, my friend, you have been involved with one of the most well-known, maybe infamous at times, publishers, Rockstar Games, the publisher of Grand Theft Auto, still a top 10 seller at GameStop. I can tell you all of these years later, Red Dead Redemption, just a legendary publishing house. Tell us how that came to be, how you were one of the co-founders, and what you did during your time at Rockstar. I'm sure you got some crazy stories in this one.
I mean, look, I ran my mouth and blagged it, right? No, so I was just very lucky. I used to make music videos, and it was through the record industry that I connected with Sam Hauser, who was at BMG Interactive. And I started working on, they were sort of finishing Grand Theft Auto 1.
Yeah.
So I made like the TV ads for Grand Theft Auto 1, and then was sort of helping to test, Three Lions, the official England football game, and Silicon Valley for the N64, and sort of got introduced to these guys called DMA up in Scotland. Right?
Okay.
It was back then they were DMA.
Yeah.
And then about 2 months into working there, BMG were like, we've got a brilliant idea. Let's sell the interactive division, right?
Here we go.
And they sold it to Take-Two. And Sam was like, hey, this guy called Ryan Brandt, Take-Two, and they've got offices in Windsor, UK, but I've got to go to New York and I've got to bring a few people with me. Would you come? Yeah. And I was like, I'm ready. Just put the ticket in my hand. I'm done. I'm in.
Yeah.
And that was like back in 97, flew out to New York, and we're part of Take-Two. And we had, we brought with us a portfolio of games, and we had a very distinct vibe already back then about how we viewed video games, and they weren't just for teenagers, right? And we believed they were a superior form of entertainment to film and music. And we're sort of very much on a mission to prove all the doubters and sort of naysayers, right, who sort of belittled video games and said that we were antisocial, that we didn't go out, that we were somehow weird playing in all the kind of the basement.
Yeah, that stereotype for sure.
But also like that we are more like mature content, right? And that then somehow we were ruining the moral fiber or the fabric of society. It's like, no, you've got your 18 certificate movies, right? And we've grown up with VHS and Betamax machines. We've grown up just inhaling and consuming American culture.
Right.
All of your movies, right? And from The Warriors, right? To The Omen to the Equalizer to Blade Runner, you name it, right? And so we've absorbed all of that, and we now want to regurgitate that in our own way, reflective of our own times, right? Yeah. So hell yeah, I want to drive around running, dropping off drugs and picking up prostitutes. And hell yeah, I want to nick a car and just, because it was more like the freedom, right? We understood like my ability to just roam around and kind of control my destiny inside the game.
Sure.
Right? It's not necessarily then about actually what I'm doing, right? And I was getting a positive, happy emotion out of my experience, and it was sating me, right, and satisfying me.
Yeah.
And therefore, it was like, and it was so refreshing. And so about 6 months in, we realized we need, we need a label, we need a name, we need a logo. We wanted like a brand mark that any consumer, when they saw it, would know exactly what they were getting.
Right.
And then we were at Six Flags roller coaster park.
Is that right?
And we were talking. Sam loved rock and roll. Sam loved music, and he could name every producer and composer and lead singer and drummer and every movie director, and always talking about the 70s and 80s and rock and roll and the lifestyle. And we were there that day with his dad was with us, and we were like, call it Rockstar. You talk about it enough.
Right.
And
right.
So we and in a good way, right? And we named it Rockstar Games. And then the entire press in America were like, go home, go back to England. We make games. We don't make music. Oh, like, go away. And we were like, oh, okay. So then we were just, oh, really? Oh, okay. Right. Game on. Fine. Let's have it. Right.
Okay.
And we're going to just make amazing content that just shuts everyone up. Right. But also just blows you away in terms of the experiences that you have with it and the emotional connection that you have with the content.
Right. So it sounds like that blowback from in other industries or the folks in the US was like, rather than being perturbed or discouraging you said, okay, we're going to come back.
Yeah. Fuel to the fire. I mean, we had a very distinct vibe. And one of the reasons why, I connected with Sam straight away, and, there's an attitude, right? And there's a determination, and there's a hunger, right? There's like a striving for excellence. There's a passion to create great art, right? And content. Yeah. So it just, we were always super motivated, but it just helped resolve. And then it became like a very important conversation.
Sure.
Right. Within the arts, and it actually led to a very, very healthy debate amongst parents and a thing called the ESRB and ratings. And then we became very clear about this game is rated for adults. And are you paying attention to what your child, and then the parents are getting involved, learning about the content and making a grown up decision about what they think is right for their child.
Right.
And it helped evolve the industry.
And it's interesting how you're relating it to movies before where, we watch tons of movies that have everything that you see in Grand Theft Auto. I think maybe the difference is when the control is given to the viewer, when the controllers are put in their heads to do those things in the video game rather than just watch, that really hit a nerve with the audience.
We had an amazing member of staff who joined Rockstar, Sean. And he came from the art world and the gallery, and rest in peace, right? He passed away a few years ago. Great poet. But I had them, he joined QA because he just really believed. He was like a curator of like the Guggenheim or something.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
And he's very much part of the art scene. And we were, testing one night, and we were talking, and he said, no, you don't understand. I'm an artist, and I would kill for someone who's looking at my art to have the connection that they do with the game.
Oh, wow.
With the controller in their hand.
Yeah.
And that, and it just, I'm probably butchering. He said it way more eloquently, but just resonated and stuck with me. And he was a beautiful person. I'll never forget him, but it just really struck me. And I was like, yes. And there is a tremendous amount of, and look, also certainly with the Grand Theft Autos, right? And then Red Dead is the open world, right? And that sense of freedom. and playing God in a different way, but just being able to experiment and play a bit fast and loose in a way that you can't in real life, right? And really kind of have ownership over your creative expression of what you do, and the journey that you have is incredibly powerful. And that's why we sort of talk about it as being, I love film, I love music, so I don't necessarily want to say it's superior, but there's a different level of engagement that video games afford, right?
Right.
Due to the inherent nature of it being this interactive. I've got a controller in my hand, I've got my fingers on a keyboard, I'm physically, tactilely connecting, right, in a way that you don't necessarily with movies and with art.
Yeah, with video games, it's very aspirational. You know, gamers have the opportunity to do things in games that you could never do in real life, whether that's fighting a dragon, right? Whether that's going on a military mission,
building a city.
Building a city, exactly.
Building a house in Sims and building a room with no walls and putting people in there.
Right.
Watching them die. Like,
it's interesting to see what people do with it. And that's why the gamers are so passionate about what we're doing. Is it's like, these are our lives. And now you're seeing young people, you know, they identify just as strongly in the digital world through these games with their gamer tags, with the skins, with their characters as they do in the physical world. And it's really interesting to see this social network build out through our video games. Yeah.
And the social fabric was always there before COVID.
Yeah.
And our kid, you know, the 8 and 10-year-olds were already using Roblox, right? Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, right? To socialize, right? COVID, I think, woke a lot of adults and sort of older non-gamers or non-hardcore gamers to actually there's these entire ecosystems. And look, and we can talk about the way video game development's evolved, right? And the free-to-play models and the microtransactions and how now these games are made where, I mean, you remember at GameStop, game comes out, it's all about those first 2 weeks on the shelves. And if it sells, great. And if it doesn't, you're in the bin, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And then, and as a consumer, it was like, I'm going to put down my $30-40 and I'm going to be happy or I'm going to be upset. But again, I'm going to play for a couple of weeks until we started having good multiplayer and 2-player. But then I'm going to forget it. Now, I've been playing Clash Royale for 10 years, right? I've been playing League of Legends since 2 years after it came out, right? 7, 8 years. I've been, you know, and like Call of Duty with the wars. These entire economies and social ways of life, right? And constant updating of content where I am staying with the same game year after year.
Yeah.
And spend very much more money on the same game.
Well, it's an incredible thing that, you know, obviously League of Legends, I think, facilitated early on with the free-to-play model, but Fortnite, you know, kind of broke all these records, put on everybody's radar this new model in a way. I don't think anybody was making the money that Fortnite has made previous to that. And boy, I was at GameStop when Fortnite came out, and it was a major problem to figure out, how do we monetize a free game that we can't sell, and everybody is taking their money. I know large percentages on Xbox and PlayStation, a ton of that money was all going to Fortnite with all the games that you could be playing. And, you know, what we figured out is like, oh, well, people need headsets because now they're right.
Picks and shovels, baby.
That's right.
Picks and shovels.
The Levi Strauss model. Exactly.
Totally. So, well, it's all you got, right, when it's free to play. And if you're not the publisher, but then, you know, that's where esports is different from sports as well. Right?
It's a major X factor,
Because the publisher own the IP. They own this stuff, right? And, you know, I think it's testament to Western publishers. Rockstar has been one of them, right, where they have transitioned and kind of absorbed and incorporated the free-to-play model.
Yes.
So not only are they like, I'm selling you $60 to $100, but 60. I love the fact that actually the one thing they can't charge more for year after year is the cost of like the box copy of a video game.
Right.
You know, they try and increase it from 60 and everyone freaks out, right?
Yeah, skateboards are the same.
Right. But like in 3 months' time, I'm going to give you a load of DLC.
Yeah.
Now, on top of that, I'm going to give you microtransactions.
Uh-huh.
And you look at GTA 5 online, right? Making 50 million a month or whatever it is.
Right.
And there's this perpetual, all of a sudden, like the whole sort of mobile app game ecosystem of lifetime value and ARPU, right? And retention, right? They've nailed it. And now they've incorporated it. So they still sell the box copy, but now there's an unlimited amount of money that an end user can spend on these products.
It's incredible. Yeah, and all they have to do is just keep the finger on the pulse of what the community wants. That's the crazy thing too, though, is, man, the community, the game community can turn against a publisher, can turn against a game on a dime. In fact, I remember another GameStop story, a Star Wars Battlefront 2. Right before it came out, it was forecast to do very, very well. And they made some loot box decisions before the release of the game.
Oh my God, like in the week of, right? Or it was a disaster.
Yeah, we sold like half the amount that we were forecasted to before. It just destroyed the game. And that's crazy because the publisher owns all the keys in the ecosystem in esports as well because they own that IP. But at the same time, boy, you better make the right decisions because you misstep. And it's like, I'm on to the next game because another game just came out. In fact, 5 just came out, probably.
Yeah, no, and I think that's always been an investment challenge for game developers, indie developers, and publishers from the investment community because video games are entertainment. That's
right.
Therefore, it's hit and miss.
Yeah.
And even if you made Grand Theft Auto, is it still lightning in a bottle? Can you make it again? And they love that word platform. Is there a technology platform that has longevity or we can sell or license out, right? And we're not so dependent on the whims of the audience. And then now we really do have the council culture. And I think there is an element of a raging toxicity that can get turned on at any moment in the industry.
Yeah.
Right. We've had it targeted at indies, right? And literally just ruin their lives on the release of a game. We've seen it targeted at girl designers, girl developers, girl CEOs, women CEOs, right? Females, which is awful. And we need to all fight.
Right.
I mean, and then you talk about, and so, and I'm going to bounce around a bit here. Twitch and video games and esports as entertainment. And yes, we like watching other people play. The fact that we can all become broadcasters because of technology and simple, cheap tools, right?
Yeah.
Means that the publishers are basically able to crowdsource later stages of development with early release builds, right? Alphas, betas, get all the feedback, get free marketing, right? Crowdsource their marketing, right? For all the awareness. To your point, you better deliver a good game. The flip side of that is you can get destroyed before you can come out.
Right.
And then, it's really interesting to see what happened with Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
When I joined Take-Two and we started Rockstar, they'd done a deal with Gathering of Developers. And back then, there was a lot of animosity between developers and publishers.
Okay.
Where the developers did work really hard, and the publishers were from the packaged goods industries and marketing people who just didn't care and love and offended quite easily the developers. And there was a real mistrust. And Take-Two had done a deal with Gathering of Developers, 3D Realms, id, right? Mike Wilson, right? Hardcore. And they sent me down to Texas, to Dallas, right?
It is right here in Dallas. Yeah.
They made me wait in the lobby for 3 hours. Right? And they met with you. They're like, you're from Take-Two, right? And so Sam, love him. And one of the reasons why I loved working for Sam and with Sam was he was like, listen, the developers are the talent.
Yeah.
And we're on the publishing side and we have to work double hard, especially if you're going to call yourself a producer.
Right.
And and you have to be so on your A game and make them feel like the stars and really have our together to be a good publisher. And we were very hands-on and very integrated into creating development, the assets that went in the game, the marketing assets and the sales assets, right? And so, but then back then we had Remedy, right? And 3D Realms and Max Payne. And every E3, right? For 5 years, right? Bullet time, same video. When's it coming? When's it coming? And they're like, when it's ready, fuck off, right? When it's ready.
Right.
But then they delivered. When Max Payne came out, the Noir, the Violent, they delivered. Cyberpunk
Different story.
You delivered a really buggy game. I don't know what happened and what went wrong, but it went wrong to the point where I know ransomware is the big thing, just stealing the files and then going, pay us or we're going to release. But they did sell all their source files, right?
Yeah.
And just all the hoopla and like getting taken down off the PlayStation store and the Xbox store. It's like, yeah, the mob, if you're going to whip up that kind of anticipation and that frenzy, if you don't deliver, like, you're going to get destroyed. Hopefully they survive, right? But,
yeah, no, it's extremely challenging. Those are some of the drawbacks or I would say the challenges of gaming. But what I want to give you an opportunity here, as we have a little bit of time left, the good that has happened as a result of gaming as well, and I know that you've had a hand in the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society related to video games. I'd love for you to share what you've done there.
The most beautiful people I've ever had an opportunity to work with, in terms of like a charity organization. I've never cried in a meeting before than when I watched like the patient stories.
Wow. Yeah.
And coincidentally, after like starting to work with them, my father's got blood cancer, but he's got a lot before that. It's like, yeah, add it to the list.
Wow.
He's got plenty of other to manage, but he's doing fine. And I think it was really one of the most amazing, beautiful things that we are seeing in gaming is this behavior of giving. Yes. Right? Sure. A lot of it started like I follow the influence of the content creator that I like and I connect with, and I want to show them and reward good content with subscribing and then with tipping. But there's this incredible sense of unity and altruistic sort of let's help other people for the toxicity that can be there in gaming, right? Both within the community and then people that are not as fortunate. And I think also, if we think certainly amongst esports, right, where we have, which really is reflective of this younger generation and where their heads are at, and actually like wanting to know that brands that they buy product from stand for something, right? Yeah. And are doing something themselves to give back and to support. And so we're seeing all of this behavior, and then, Dr. Lupo, I mean, what a hero, right? Yes. And I think, his boy, right, I think was sick and St. Jude's helped him. I think that's the connection. And there's, Rooster Teeth and Mr. Beat, loads of content creators that have just raised such a tremendous amount of money in a short period of time. And so really it was about when I met Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, I'm like, you're such a fabulous charity, right? You're so stand up and it all goes into research, right? And you're like non-for-profit, and you think about sort of what the kids go through with blood cancer, like the treatments they get actually gives them life-threatening illnesses. It's like barbaric. It's like 1600s time, right? Jeez. And so you really sort of feel that. And I realized like the younger generation, certainly games weren't necessarily aware of them. Sure. And it's been an incredible journey to sort of really focus on like teaching them how to fish rather than fish for them. Right. And also, they are a charity, so don't want to really take any of their money, give them a lot of free hours, but you have to spend some money sometimes to build an infrastructure. So we focused on really sort of building out the tech stack for them. Yeah. Right. So they have a Tiltify homepage, right? They're on Stream Elements, right? And then it was like, okay, let's get you connected to Discord. Let's work with sort of young organizations like Player GG, and let's do a sweepstake and get Corsair Computer in there and get some energy going and create some sort of stream assets and a toolkit that you can then provide, because I think you'll find, as we have found, that so many gamers, or so many of their patients, so many of the kids and the grown-ups that have blood cancer or in treatment or in remission game and are gaming, right? And it's a really, it's a wonderfully healthy, positive way for them to be able to do something, right? Yeah. Either like gaming changed their life in terms of isolation for 4 months, like what we've gone through in COVID, they've been going through, right? Before COVID, no one can come in the room, you're just completely cut off. And so gaming has absolutely broken down a lot of barriers for socializing, for communicating, for a sense of relief and a sense of joy.
Right.
And so it's really exciting, right, to work with them. And I think, we came up with a campaign called #TiltCancer. It's sort of like our moniker, right, or our sort of starting handle. We have a number of campaigns running. And right now we're looking at Minecraft, right, and how we can put a challenge together, right, leveraging Minecraft. And also when we think about, they have a hero squad program at the school level, my 8 and 10-year-olds, it's like they're playing Minecraft. And how do we modernize the cookie sale, like the Girl Scout cookie sale? Yeah. I don't want to take away the cookies, girls, not the Girl Scouts, I'm not messing with you. But I feel like we can grow on it, right? And we can use gaming and the power of gaming to connect, right, to bond and come together and kind of, donate or reward time spent. And also video games, as all the colleges and high schools are working out, actually our children are developing the soft skills, the emotional learning skills, the STEM skills that are necessary for basic jobs, right? And also then the math and the STEM. So as a way to reward kind of progressive, productive behavior and tie it to donations, and it's amazing. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, we know that just about all youth are playing video games. I did a keynote yesterday to the California State University Entertainment Alliance. And so I did a bunch of research around this. And one of the things I pulled up was 90% of teens in the US are gamers playing video games, and 97% of boys who are teenagers who are playing games in the US. I was floored by that statistic. But then when you look at youth who are in a hospital, who are in a situation where they can't get out of bed, they can't hang out with other people, gaming can be all there is, and if they were well and healthy, they'd probably still be gaming, but they're able to just
it's transformative. So we had this lovely young kid called Nick, and he, we focused on his patient story for Tilt Cancer, and he's isolated from everybody, and playing video games made unbearable treatment manageable.
Wow. And
helped ensure that he never quite gave up or lost hope.
Yeah.
Right. And definitely brought relief. And he's in remission, and he's got a head of hair, and,
wow.
And he's absolutely made all the difference to how I got through my treatment.
That's incredible. That gives me goosebumps right now. I'm listening to share about this, and the ability to build connections too. Games are so social nowadays, and we see young people who are very healthy, who are making a lot of their connections through video games. But man, when you're stuck in that room and the only people that are coming are your parents and the kids you used to go to school with, you're not seeing anymore. The ability to connect as well as explore these worlds.
Animal Crossing. I mean, Animal Crossing was one of the saving graces of COVID, right? For
absolutely
grown-ups and kids alike. And then when we think about, the power of that, look at how the fashion industry, right? And cosmetics all embraced Animal Crossing. And what I love is, I think it was, Procter & Gamble's Venus, right? Or one of the beauty brands in Animal Crossing, like I could put acne on my avatar, or I could put stretch marks. I just, it was so humanizing. And I'm like, yes, love that, look, and I think, there's, if you look at Animal Crossing, you look at Roblox, you look at Minecraft, these collaborative world builders, right? I'm expressing myself, I'm building, I'm having adventures, and it is incredibly explorative, and it really sort of unleashes one's imagination. And then they are screaming at, I need to meet Sufi in the server, and so they are actually it's fast tracking their technical know-how, their ability to use computers to navigate things like Zoom, right, and email, and find each other, and then get in the server, and then do things together. And it's really it just extends and builds on what we can have in real life. And thank God, because there's a lot of mental wellness issues because of COVID on a younger generation. Yeah. And then you also think, I'm talking from a privileged position, right? Because I live in a place where I have internet, right? I have fast internet, and I can afford a computer. And so you think then about, all the underprivileged kids, right? and all the single parents, right? And those that are like living on or below the poverty line,
right?
And they haven't then had Animal Crossing, or they haven't had the ability to be in Minecraft and connect, right? And have had a really dissatisfactory, experience with Zoom and homeschooling, right?
Right, true.
And it's going to take. We're going to see the effects of that, right? It's definitely taken a big toll,
right? And I think there's opportunities, and this is where brands can step in. I always love to open the eyes of brands that and just also the broader world is like, we need money to do stuff, cool stuff, right, and impactful stuff. And you know who has the money? Brands have the money.
Right. And this generation, especially the esports generation, that's also why they're like, this is my passion. I don't kind of need you.
Right.
Fine. I like some people, I like it, but if you're going to come in and like, part of the reason why I like all these ecosystems is I'm not spammed with ads. I mean, that's changing now, right?
Unfortunately,
right?
yes.
You'll cut quickly the cord to get away from ads, and all I do is get ads on every OTT device and cable and whatever.
Exactly.
And pre-roll and mid-wow. But they're like, let me see you invest a bit into the ecosystem, into those that aren't as fortunate, that we do care about and want to see you lift up.
Right.
And the goodwill and the brand lift and the positive sentiment, and you will actually like rapidly move into the purchase consideration set.
Yep.
It's so easy, but it's still like a foreign language.
Yes.
And there are these new platforms and these new tools, and so the KPIs don't immediately obviously line up, right?
Right.
And we're not sure, and there's still some perhaps misperceptions about gaming, and I think COVID hopefully has really destroyed that. And now it's a question of the clutter and the noise and where do you play, right? And really understanding, to your point, competitive gaming is made up of a lot of different sports, with very different audiences in different parts of the world with different behaviors, and then gaming culture is very different.
True.
And look, and getting into a video game is still high touch and hard. Yeah. And again, that's one of the beautiful things about esports. It's opened up all these new touch points where actually it's really easy for a brand to come in and go, got it. And you love this passion, we love you, so let us help you. And we got this, and we paid for this, and we've done this, and because we got this, and it's like beautiful.
Exactly. No, I love it. And I think too, just a call out to anybody who's watching and listening to this episode is, those people who don't have that access, you give that access to video games, to the gaming experience, the social experience that it provides in a positive way. You give that access to the people who don't have access themselves, man, that is going to return many times over to your brand, loyalty, affinity, and it's going to result, like you said, in the sales consideration process as well. Well, Jamie, I had such an enjoyable time talking with you. I learned a lot about video game development, and it's just, I always love our chats, and
you, John.
You're an enjoyable guy to talk to, and I love your experience and your perspective on things. Tell the audience before I let you loose here, how can they follow you? Is there anything that they need to know that you're working on?
No. There's way more interesting people to follow. Like, I have this really weird relationship with social, and on my Instagram, like, I've made it private, and I sort of want to try and just keep my family and friends updated, and it's my daughters. Then I sort of like slightly sort of spazzy, like fits and starts, sort of like tweet or like post what I'm doing on a work front.
Sure.
But I'm like, there's way more, the things I'm working on are way more interesting, right? Than
awesome.
Me.
Well, what are some of those things?
They should follow EMLS, right? Love what we've worked Major League Soccer for 4 years. Love, all the work that we do on EMLS and everything to do with FIFA, right? Which now we're doing like watch-alongs for the actual, soccer games, right? With people like A9 Skills. We're doing, collaborating with Twitch on Twitch Rivals, FIFA shows. We love everything to do with soccer culture. I will at some point probably no doubt post what we're up to with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I would say that we do have a great toolkit, and you can get it from Stream Elements and on the Tiltify platform, and you can help fundraise, right? #TiltCancer, right? That's what we're on about. And then no doubt we'll be up to some stuff, with Bud Light as the year comes back, right? They've got their, the official beer of the LCS, as well as Buffalo Wild Wings, right? So as we all get back to live events and stuff, no doubt there'll be some beer and chicken wings, right? And fun things for us to do.
Well, no, that's awesome. Looking forward to seeing you at one of these live events sometime soon.
Me too. I'm raring to go. I tell you, I've got my shot. I'm like, let's do this.
Let's go. Awesome. Well, Jamie King, thank you so much for joining me on the DLC Drop podcast. It has been a pleasure.
John, thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the DLC Drop podcast. This podcast is part of the Esports Futuri Podcast Network and produced by Innovation Media Enterprises. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast channel and leave us a review.